In number 93, in your classwork for congruent triangles, asks you to prove that FG is congruent to HG. So the first step in this problem will, of course, to create a proof. So we'll write our statements and our reasons, and the first step would be to prove that these two triangles are congruent, and then because they are congruent, then we can say that the corresponding parts of the triangles must also be congruent, and that would be how we prove that FG and HG are congruent. So first of all, GK is a perpendicular bisector of FH. So this is given. So what does this mean? If GK is a perpendicular bisector of FH, this means that where the two intersect, so that would be angles FKG and angles HKG, those would follow that they are right angles. So we could say that FKG, angle FKG, and angle HKG are right angles. And this is because perpendicular lines form right angles. Then it would be safe to say that since angle FKG and angle HKG are right angles, then angle FKG would be congruent to angle HKG by the fact that right angles are congruent because they have the same measure, and if they have the same measure of 90 degrees, then they would be congruent. Then we have number 4. So our statement goes back to the fact that it is a bisector of FH. So if GK is a bisector of FH, that means that HK and KH are going to be similar or of the same measure. So that means that FK is congruent to KH by the definition of a bisector. So we could say definition of bisector here. And then number 5, we would also need to prove that if we say that these are congruent, then we can also say that GK is congruent to GK by the reflexive property of congruence. Then number 6, so we know that we have one pair of sides that are congruent, then we have a pair of angles that are congruent, and then we have another pair of sides that are congruent. So we have, we could say finally that triangles FKG and triangles HK EKG are congruent by side angle side triangle congruence, and then it would follow that what we're trying to prove that FG and HG are congruent, and we can finally do this by saying that the corresponding parts of the congruent triangles are congruent, and that is our proof complete.